There are a couple of ways to make quarter square triangle blocks, and one of those ways is to make your initial squares a little bit bigger so that when you've joined all the pieces together and you've made your quarter square triangle, then you trim it down into size. But how do you do that while keeping that perfect X shape going on? Well, that's what I'm going to show you in this video, including my very secret tool. Who am I? I am Kim. This is A Quote with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's go sort these QSTs out. Here is my very pretty quarter square triangle block then, ready to be trimmed down. Now, my pattern says that this needs to be a 4.5 inch size, ready to be stitched to all the other blocks so they all play nicely together and fit well together. Now, just to show you, I've got a little 4.5 inch square ruler, which I always find very cute, these rulers. I'll probably need to get out a little bit more. Now, if I put that in the center of my block, you can see that the method I used was the method where we use as a bigger set of squares to start with to get to our quarter square triangle, which leaves this excess round the edge that we can trim off. Now, you can, of course, use this little ruler to trim around the edge, but I think there is a better way. So let me show you that one. So that is going to one side. Now I have got here a 12.5 by 4.5 inch ruler. You need the ruler that is going to be the size of your block that you need to get to. So if you need a 6.5 inch finished quarter square triangle block, get a ruler that is 6.5 inches wide, and so on. The reason why I have chosen this longer ruler is so that I can slide it, and that will become apparent as we go on. Now, before we start, I want to show you just a couple of things that you need to look for on your ruler. First of all is the 45-degree angle line, which pretty much all rulers have, so find that first. The second thing is identify where the middle of your ruler is. Now, this is a Creative Grids ruler, and you can see down the middle here, they have put a white line to show the middle of my ruler. That's the exact center of my 4.5 inch wide ruler down the middle. So identify where the middle of your ruler is. If there is no proper marking, then make a little marking. Maybe put a bit of masking tape or something where the middle section is, because that'll help you in just a second. So what we want to do first and foremost is put our ruler on our quarter square triangle block. And then what we want to do is a couple of things at the same time. We want to get our line, that middle line, sitting, coming down the middle, and you can't see that. I can't zoom in any further. Let me bring this right up. I'll show you on another block in a minute to show you. If I bring that right up to the camera, she says, oh, there we go. Right, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you see here? There's that middle line that we want to look out for, and that is cutting through the middle of our block there, where those two triangles meet. That white line, the center of our ruler, is cutting all the way through. Okay, can you see that bit there? So we want to do that first. I'm going to have to put this down to do the next bit, but bear in mind, or just know that that is in the right place. So that white line is cutting through the center of our block. At the same time, we want this 45-degree angle sitting on that diagonal of our two triangles. So that top left and the bottom right of this triangle. All right, let's straighten it up because it's got a bit wibbly wobbly. Now, we probably want to do a couple of things at this point, and let me introduce you to my secret tool, which is a pair of tweezers. Now, these aren't any old tweezers. These aren't the tweezers that you pluck your eyebrows with, because I don't think you'd have eyebrows left, but they are overlocker tweezers, or if you pop down to your hardware store, I'm sure that they have tweezers like this. If you look at your block, there's a couple of things that we need to line up first and foremost, and we're going to bother about this right hand section first. So we have got this diagonal line here, okay, needs to come off the right hand corner of our ruler. Mine happens to, but if it doesn't, hold that with your tweezers and just gently nudge it into place. Okay, and then put your finger on it. I've pulled it out of place now because it was perfectly in place. So we want that in place. We still want to make sure this is all perfectly lining up. And then down here, can you see this bottom right hand corner? What's happened in my instance is that the blue and orange fabric here is just coming to the left of this diagonal black line. And if I put my tweezers in place, so can you see? Now, the reason I'm doing that is because the black line is difficult for you to see here. And if I hold it up to the camera, I'll lose it. So if I put the tweezers there, they're on the black line, and you can see that there's a bit of this blue and orange nudging over this way towards the white, and we don't want that. So what I'm going to do is, with my tweezers, just gently pull and nudge this into place. It's only a little tweak. So what I then have is the edge of this triangle is going to sit exactly on that black 45-degree angle line. And then the top of this one, of the other side, is going to cut into that corner there. Occasionally you get rulers with a 45-degree going the other way, which is very helpful, but this ruler doesn't. If I'm happy with that, then I'm going to hold that down in place. I'm going to get my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut that little bit off there. Okay, so that's that gone. Now I'm going to turn it around and do the other side. So I've done this side, I'm turning it round over to my left. And we're now going to treat this the same. So if I put my ruler back, and this is why we have a longer ruler, so I can slide it into place. So my white line, this is in the middle here, which I appreciate you may not be able to see. You can probably just see it on the camera. I'm going to slide it so that 45-degree angle is sitting on the diagonals, and at the same time I need to slide it so that white line ends up down in through the center section. All right, so you can sort of see that there's diagonal going up there, cutting very nicely, but this this diagonal line here is sitting perfectly on my two triangles, and the white line, I promise you, is sitting beautifully going through that center point there. I guess if you zoom right in on your screen, you'll probably be able to see that. If you're watching on the television, you might be able to see it a little bit easier. The other thing that I'm looking for all at the same time is over on the left, I need to make sure that the edge of my ruler is straight against the edge of the block here, and this is the side we've just trimmed, so it should do. And if it doesn't, I'm going to make some little micro adjustments to make sure it's exactly on the line here on the edge. That 45-degree angle is on that, the angle of the two triangles, and that little white line is going through the center. Your middle demarcation of your ruler is going through the middle. What has happened over on the right hand side, remember these corners, that top corner is a bit out of kilter here, so I'm going to just nudge it into place just slightly with my tweezers. Yes, you can use your fingers, but if you're anything like me, I'm a bit kind of more fingers and thumbs with my fingers, which of course I would be. Yeah, let's leave that there. The tweezers are a bit easier to use. So I can get this diagonal line here going through the corner, and then again down here, what I can see, and if you can zoom in, you might be able to see that there's a little bit of the white fabric showing on the wrong side of the diagonal. So what I want to do is just nudge this slightly so that that diagonal line goes all the way down through that diagonal seam line. So it's a little bit of a tweaking. Hold that in place, hold that in place. You need to use every finger and thumb you've got going in your hand. When I'm happy, I'm cutting that off. And let's get rid of that. So that's two sides done. Now we turn that around. So those are our trim sizes, and we need to treat this exactly the same way. So I'm going to put this in the middle. And by the way, if you hold on, when I've done this one, I'm going to show you how to deal with a block where you've got quarter square triangles one side and a half square triangle the other side. So don't go anywhere. But we treat this exactly the same. I've got my 45-degree angle line going beautifully down the edges of those triangles there. I've got that center mark line going through the middle of the triangles. Actually, you can see it a bit clearly now, can't you? Because it's on the color. I am also making sure, there's quite a lot of things that you need to make sure of, that the top of my ruler is sitting beautifully on that top cut line here, because we know that's a straight line, so we can use that to give us that straightness, that squaring. We need to square this quarter square triangle block, so we've got some straight edges that we can now use very easily. So let's use that one there. And then again, down at the bottom, I want to make sure that I've got a nice straight line down at the bottom of my block here. So a little bit of shuffling your ruler about, and you can't do this using the small ruler. This is far easier with a longer ruler. So what I've got now, just to recap, is my diagonal 45-degree line going down the diagonals or the sides of the triangles. I've got my straight edge at the top of the ruler nicely in position. I've got my middle center line going right through the middle, cutting through the middle there. And I've got a straight line, horizontal line on my ruler going across the bottom. And if I am happy with that, I also need to check that the edge of this diagonal cuts through the corner of my ruler. It doesn't, slightly. So what I'm going to do is hold all of this down and then use my tweezers just to adjust very slightly. It's normally because the fabric's got itself a bit caught up. So all I'm doing is tweaking it very slightly. I'm not pulling to distort it. I'm just nudging it into position. So I can see that that diagonal line there, the edge of the triangle, now cuts through the corner up at the top here. And then again, down at the bottom, let's get a finger up here. Down at the bottom here, I want to do the same thing. So this orange and blue, which is a Cafe Facet fabric, by the way, is actually nudging the wrong side of that black 45-degree line. So with my tweezers, I just need to nudge that into position so it is perfectly this side of the 45-degree angle line, and you'll see that you end up with this beautiful point with the fabric in it. Can you see at the bottom of the screen there? We've got this beautiful point with the fabric, and then all the white fabric in this case is the other side of that line. So when I am happy that that is in position, I can then cut that off. I don't know why I'm pressing so hard. I've literally just changed the blade on my rotary cutter, and I was pressing really hard with the old one thinking, I must change my blade, I must change my blade, I must change my blade. I've changed my blade and it cuts like just beautifully, and now I'm pressing too hard because I've just got into the habit. Okay, so that's 3 sides done. We obviously now need to do this side, so let's turn it round. There's a little rule in patchwork, which is to do opposites, and it really helps you, and I'll probably cover that in another video somewhere, not this one, but work with the opposites. Okay, so we need to do this. So this one becomes the easier one. So we want to make sure that the line at the top, so the top of our ruler is on the top of our nice straight edge of our block there. We want the left hand edge of our ruler in position on the left hand side of our block. I know it sort of looks like it doesn't on the screen, but it is actually perfectly in place. I think it's just the shading of the edge of the ruler there. And then down at the bottom, we want to make sure that the bottom line, this horizontal line at the bottom, is in position. And if it isn't anywhere, we need to do a little adjustment. What you should find automatically now is that that white center demarcation line, or whatever color you've got, cuts perfectly through the middle of your 2 triangles. And then what we should have is that 45-degree angle cuts down the edges of your triangles just down there. And I think it probably does. I'm going to hold it down. That's in position down here. And actually that one at the top fits beautifully and it cuts into that corner there in perfection. And I think that's all okay. If it needed adjusting, I would just give it some little tweaks with my tweezers and then that would be perfect. But as it is, that's okay. So let me get my rotary cutter, try not to cut hard this time, and go through there. Do you know, I missed that. Having said that I don't have to cut very hard, I then completely missed it. Okay, tweezers are also very good for getting rid of the bits. Okay, and there we have an absolute perfect square, quarter square triangle. And if I put that on there, that initial ruler, we'll find that that is a perfect 4.5 inch square, quarter square triangle block. That's a lot of things to say. Right, before you rush off and think, oh, marvelous, I can go and do that, let me show you how it works with a block. This is a finished one, but a block that's got quarter square triangle one side and then a half square triangle the other side. So this is done. Don't need to show you that one, but I can show you one that isn't ready to go. So I've just pulled this. I have no idea what this is going to turn out like. Okay, so let's get this into the screen so that you can see. And we treat this pretty much the same way as it happens. So same thing again, I need to get it down in this particular instance to 4.5 inches. I need my ruler again. I'm going to go through the same process. So I start off on one side, I get that line, my middle line, going through the middle of my block, but I haven't got anything to help me at the bottom. So there's a little bit of a judgment you can use. In fact, let me move this and show you. On your cutting mat, you will find 45-degree lines, which you could use to help you if you put, I can't quite get it all in one, but you could actually get that 45-degree line cutting through your square, coming down at the bottom there. But if you haven't, don't worry. It is all possible with this ruler. So where was I? Right, we need that middle line going through the middle of our block. We need that 45-degree angle following our 45-degree of the quarter square triangles that are on our block here. And what I'm looking for is, like, there's a little intersection of that 45-degree angle and that middle line, and they both need to cross in that middle section here where the two quarters meet the half. And if you spend a little bit of time doing that, you'll get that in position. Now at the same time, look at this axis. Is that an axis? That diagonal. And make sure, remember we said in the other one, we want to make sure that the diagonal or the seam at the top needs to come out of that corner. That one's coming out the top. We've got the middle line going through, the diagonal going through. We can sort of see that this is going straight off into the corner down at the bottom. I am happy with that. I am going to cut through that without the weight of my entire arm going through. That is straight. We're going to turn round and we're going to deal with this side now. So we've dealt with that side, we're going to deal with this side. We can now use this left hand edge to put our ruler against. We need to look at that intersection of that middle center line and the 45-degree angle line and slide it into position so that that 45-degree now sits on that diagonal quarter square triangle down at the bottom, and your center line comes nicely down the middle there. And I'm going to look at my bottom right hand corner. Does this seam line beautifully with that 45-degree angle? I'm just going to tweak that slightly because it wasn't, you may not be able to see that, but it wasn't lining up properly. And again at the top, what is going on here? I've just moved everything out of place. Let's get everything back again. Okay, what is going on up here? So we need to tweak that into position with a little bit of encouragement. Come on. There we go. Right, let's hold that. That's nudged over there. Let's get that back. It happens. This is a little bit of fiddling. I'm never going to show you things that work absolutely perfectly first time, because they don't in quilting. We are dealing with fabric. It's a bit of a movable feast. Do you know, I think that when I go up there, that'll sort itself out. So that's close enough for me at the moment. Let's get rid of that before it changes its mind. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so I've done those two sides. Looks a bit odd at the moment because we haven't done the other two sides. So let's turn it round and then treat these two sides the same. Let's get our ruler in place. We've got our 45-degree angle going through the middle there, and I'm sliding it down so that I've got my center demarcation line. This is my word of the video, demarcation. My center line going down the middle, cutting that little middle section there where all the seams meet, and the 45-degree perfectly in place down the seam. And we need to make sure that the top of the ruler is on the top of the fabric here. It's not, so we're going to get that into position, and down at the bottom all at the same time. So there's lots of things going on. I think this might be a very wonky block, if I'm being completely honest. This is a block that I am stitching up for a sample for Sewing Street TV next week in a few days' time. So I've been sewing at speed, so some of them aren't going to be perfect, but it's only about 1 millimetre or so out, so I'm going to live with that because I know that'll disappear in the seam allowance. Okay, so I'm nudging that. To be honest, I know that there's going to be white blocks going on up here, and there's a tiny little gnat's whisker missing at the top. I know that'll hide in the seam allowance, but the diagonal coming off here, that'll be better if that was more in place. I don't know if that's good English, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I've got this into position. I'm holding that down. I am going to cut up there before we go any further. Let's get rid of that. And then we're going to turn that around. Can you see up here? This is the little bit that I'm not entirely happy about. It's not quite perfect for me, but you know, it'll lose itself in the seam allowance, and I can in the seam allowance when I attach the next block. So I think actually I can fiddle about when I do that to get that into position, and so we get a nice perfect seam match. Okay, last side then, same thing again. We need, let's get this a little bit further into the camera there. We need to get the 3 sides all lined up beautifully. So that's top edge there, the left hand edge there, and then the bottom edge there. We need to get that 45-degree line going down that center diagonal seam. We're looking for that center line going all the way down the middle. And when you are happy, when making sure that the corner finishes perfectly in the corner here, can you see I'm not worried about this excess. I'm worried about, does the meeting of the blue and the white in this case meet perfectly at the corner here? There's a line in the edge of the ruler. Yes, it absolutely does. And the same thing at the top. I've got 2 blues here, and I can see that that seam cuts that corner. I am very happy with that. Let's hold that down and don't sneeze. And then cut through that one there. And there we have it. So we've got, where was the other one gone? So we've got this one where we've got 2 quarter square triangles and a half square. And we have got an absolutely perfect quarter square triangle there. And that is how you make your quarter square triangles and get them trimmed down to size. I found a sound effect on my software. You're gonna love this. Anyway, I hope that has helped. If it has, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will love you and leave you for now. And I shall see you next time. Bye for now.